So the drone bees, so drone bees are the male bees. It's the only boys in the hive, and their one sole purpose is to mate with queens. So from the day that they're born, they
Wow.
literally just wander around. They are fed, they are bathed, they don't do absolutely anything. Classic. Not really, I swear. But yeah, after 20 days
These
or
are bees,
so,
everybody.
yeah, just bees. They go on a mating flight. So it'll be a cluster of, thousands of bees, like 100 feet up in the air, just playing. And then that's it. Once they finish the process, their lifetime has ended.
Wild. After that bee storm.
Yep, after the bee storm.
Interesting.
Yeah. So a queen bee will mate with, 5 to 15 different males, and she'll store up all that sperm and different genetics, and that's what she'll use throughout her years to lay eggs. So like whenever you have a virgin queen, whenever she first hatches, she'll be in the hive for a couple days, and she'll be really thin and like narrow, and you'll know that she's mated because when they come back, they're just fat and juicy. I had a virgin queen recently, or it was a new queen, I should say. She wasn't my old queen. She just looked different. Her coloring was different, but she was very thick. And I was like, whoa, you are new. I can just tell you do not look like the other one.
So you could tell when they're pregnant and all that.
Yeah, they're just a lot bigger because they
Right.
have, millions of eggs essentially stored up.
Is that your kind of job out there to detect and kind of like plants, right? To ID kind of who's who?
Yeah, so every time you get in the hive, you generally always want to see your queen. She's really sneaky though, so sometimes it's actually really hard to find her.
Really?
Yeah, you will find out soon enough. But you can always look for eggs and larvae, which is a really good sign. Like, oh, she's still here, or she was at least here 3 days ago.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So tell us. So we're learning all the good stuff about the bees and why we need them and like their roles to play. Can you talk a little bit about, because I've heard that the commercial industry and like packing hives and just the practices aren't so good that we do it today in agriculture. Like, what's the difference between like how they do it and how you do it?
So I don't know too much about necessarily the bad practices. I think it's more of there could be a lot of negative repercussions from commercial beekeeping. So we'll use like the almond pollination, for example. Say if I took my hives and I sold them to go and pollinate all the almonds. The bees are in a really stressful environment for one. They're all packed onto, these massive 18-wheelers. They're strapped together. They're super hot. They're not doing any of their normal work, and they have to survive that trip just on the resources that they have, which could also be like dangerous in itself.
Got you.
Like,
Wait, so what did you say? I'm sorry to interrupt.
no.
I'm just curious what you meant, like they're not doing what they're typically doing. What are they typically doing? Like instead of like pollinating almonds?
Yeah, the daily life of the bee, they're out pollinating, they're working, they're cleaning.
More like biodiversity, you're saying.
Yeah, but during that travel process, which I think is the scariest part, they're locked in that box. So they can't leave, and they're really sensitive to stress too.
Totally.
So you don't want to do that. And then the other issue that I've seen, I watched this great documentary. I think it was called The Pollinator, which everybody should watch.
The pollinator.
It was really about beekeeping,
Okay.
commercial beekeeping.
Okay.
But it was these people, and they had like apple farms, and they had hives everywhere. And then their neighbors sprayed, and it killed all of their bees. So that's something that you have to worry about too, is you don't know what anyone else is doing. And it's always really scary. You could walk out any day and all your hives could be dead, and there's no going back.
And that's what you're saying. So you're saying
Yeah.
the bad stuff that happens is byproducts of like
Yeah.
like bringing the bees like on for a week, they're locked up going to Cali or something. Got it. Or they're spraying next to, because that happens all the time even in town, like spraying drugs. Like people are just out here.
I think I asked you like 4 times, like, you don't spray, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You just never know.
Because bees, but here's the thing, I think this is the punchline. Bees are just tuned in. They're affected by that, right? But all of us are affected by all of
100%.
creation, right?
Yeah. It's just like another sign. It's like, if you're killing that animal, what do you think it does to you? Like anything else.
That's right.
Like, if it kills something, it can't be good for you.
Yeah. So I guess I'm realizing it takes like managing the bees properly, right? Like, and that's kind of what your role is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so.
That's what I do.
Which is epic. Yeah. Like, is it like doable for people to do it like in towns and stuff? Because maybe they're a little intimidated because they're going to get stung or something.
Yeah, urban beekeeping is a huge thing. Like if you go
Cool.
to New York, you'll see hives in random spots, which was really fun. I have
love
mine in my backyard in a very small area.
Where at? Like in town?
Yeah, just in Jupiter.
Cool.
Haven't had any issues. My neighbors are okay with it. So bees themselves, all right. A bee will go 3 miles from its hive, but they don't really cluster that much around the hive area because anyone who's leaving is going to go out foraging. Chances are they've already been through every plant within 20 feet, right? So for me, for example, my hives are in my backyard. You can't tell that I have bees in my backyard. Like my neighbors don't notice them. I've walked on the sidewalk. You don't even see them.
Wow. They're out and about.
Yeah, they're just cruising around.
Right.
You know, and if you go in the backyard, obviously you see them, but like I'll garden right in front of the hive. You know, will lay under them and watch them. And
That's another level. I don't know if I'm going to be doing that right away.
that was a spiritual experience. That was really neat.
Really?
Yeah, they do these things called orientation flights. So it's every afternoon for me from like 3 to 5 p.m. is the key window. And it's all the new bees that are going to be the foragers. And so they're getting the lay of the land. So they do like this bee tornado, like 30 feet up in the air. And they just start going out little by little and coming back, making markers, getting an idea of where they are, like pinpointing all their locations. But one day it was during like midst of spring. So it was, you know, the bee baby boom. And there was just like thousands of bees in my backyard, like doing the tornado. So yeah,
orientation time.
yeah. So I just went and laid and like just watched them, and it was really neat.
Spiritual experience.
Yeah, 100%.
Very
It was
cool.
fun.
Cool. It's another piece to the puzzle. It totally seems that way, right?
Yeah.
Like cities need it, right? Urban abundance. Like cities need it. Everyone needs, you know, natural.
Yeah, you got to have
light.
pollinators, and especially in these urban areas where you know too, you know, there isn't a whole lot of like native planting or plants and things that are really good for the environment and the soil. So it's really
Yes.
important that we can at least make up for it with something else like the pollinators.
Yeah. So we
Yeah.
provide the pollinators. Like, what are some plants we could plant that they really like?
They love everything. They're really not picky,
Wow.
honestly.
So flowering.
Anything
goodness.
with flowers, yeah. They love my giant milkweed. They go bananas for the salvia. They just lose it on that.
Salvia. I've seen that.
They really like the zinnias. They're really not picky. There isn't a flower that I have that they aren't attracted to.
They love Tulsi, holy basil.
Yeah, they'll honestly eat anything. I recently got my hive inspected, and the lady was telling me a story of there was this like summer camp, we'll say, and they threw away all the Halloween candy, and then they had to call to get bees removed because the bees were eating all the candy, and it was just like an explosion.
What?
Yeah, and she's checked hives where the honey was blue because they were eating like ices or something, or it'll be like cherry Coke flavored.
That's a trip.
Yeah, they don't
'Cause they-
discriminate.
I mean, it's like humans. You leave a bunch of soda around or Halloween for kids.
Yeah,
They're going to eat it, yeah.
they'll do anything. They just like sugar.
Hey guys, so if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe below. And we'll see you in the next one.